Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Falcon Thought Community's Digital News, Jacob Rivera, Jab Hook Boxing, Daniel Carpio of The Inscriber, Scorsese of my YTBC fame, EJ Boxing Live, also YTBC fame, and the one and only Gus. What's going on, ladies and gents?
Good evening, all. Good evening. Happy early 4th of July for those of you on this side of the pond.
That's fireworks.
Actually, yeah. EJ, Gus, how do you guys celebrate the 4th of July? Or you guys celebrate Benedict Arnold? I saw the statue in England. I remember that one.
EJ Boxing Live here. EJ Boxing Live here. What's going on, peoples?
What's going on? For those who are new, Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Pound for Pound Boxing Report is a live YouTube show as well as podcast and blog that discusses all things boxing and modern wisdom. When boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, we will talk about it. If you want to find more information about Pound for Pound Boxing Report, just go to the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. Go to the right of the blog page. You'll find links to find us all over social media, all over the internet, all over the interwebs, places, link to find us on Facebook, plus YouTube, Tumblr, link to find the Pinterest board, link to find the RSS feed, link to find us on Twitter, as well as links to find us on Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, iTunes. Subscribe to us there. Check us out. Let us know what we're doing right with the show. Let us know what we're doing wrong with the show. And lastly, also on the blog, link to find the email account, which is p4pboxingrpt@gmail.com. Let's get the show started tonight, folks. Recapping what happened in boxing over the past weekend. I want to start up with the fight of the night, possibly the fight of the year so far in 2016. Keith Thurman 12-round decision winner with Shawn Porter 115-113 on all three scorecards. Look, this fight lived up to all expectations, exceeded all expectations. I wasn't sure how good this fight was going to be. It turned out to be a terrific fight, back and forth action all the way. For me, I gave the fight to Thurman by 2 points. I agree with the judges for once. A lot of people on social media had Porter winning. For me, it was just the speed and accuracy of Thurman that proved to be the difference. Since it's been a while since you've been on here, EJ, I'm going to you first. Your thoughts on the fight. Who did you have winning?
Oh, yeah. I had Keith Thurman winning. He had the cleaner work, the more power punches. Porter came on some rounds, some spots where Porter had Thurman against the ropes. I scored them rounds for Porter, but overall, I think the judges were right, and the right man won. A lot of controversy that they feel like Porter won the fight. But to me, it was a good fight. It was a good fight, enjoyable. But to me, both of them probably one of the best in the weight class and stuff like that. I was expecting a different type of fight, but it was good what it is, and maybe we get a rematch. But overall, the right person won, and let's move on to try and unify the division and see what happens there. But yeah, it was an enjoyable fight.
I'm going to go to you, Gail, and then you, Scorsese. For me, after round 10, I wasn't sure about Thurman. He looked a little shaky. He looked a little bit like the pace was getting to him, but kudos to him. He recovered in round 11 and 12 to get the decision. That's what won him the fight on my card. Again, I'll go to you, Gail, and you, Scorsese. Your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, Thurman got rocked in the 9th round by Porter. He got buzzed pretty seriously, so all due credit to him for withstanding the shot, coming back on strong. He did finish very strong. This was a fight both of them needed. Both of them needed a good, gutsy performance. They needed to put on a show. They did. It was entertaining. It was competitive throughout. There could be people seeing it either way. It's all dependent on what you look for in judging. That's always the story when it goes to the scorecards in a close fight. What do you, as an individual judge, most value? What do you put the most weight on? And that can legitimately and fairly be different. Is it volume? Is it aggression? Is it accuracy? Is it power? Is it ring generalship? You know, what is it? The good news was both of them looked good, looked strong throughout the fight. By the time the final bell sounded, neither of them looked like they were gassed or, couldn't raise their arms, which, you see all the time. Not true with these guys. And by far the best news was it was fan friendly. It was on broadcast TV. We can get into that a little bit more as the discussion goes on. This was not only a good fight for both Thurman and for Porter, it was a great fight for boxing in general, and I couldn't be happier the way it turned out.
Indeed, this boxing was a godsend to PBC, as boxing Twitter was just crazy over this fight, tweeting back and forth and talking how much they enjoyed the fight, how much of a good fight it was. I'm going to you, Scorsese. Last week, you essentially said this fight was past its peak, meaning that this fight should have happened earlier, and you was not as interested at the delays of the fight. Looking back now, in terms of how exciting the fight was, has your perception changed? Hindsight being 2020, of course.
I still feel that they could have did this a year ago, but it happened, and I gotta be appreciative that they could have never done it. Could have waited 10 years, 5 years. It happened. All I was saying then is they had the opportunity, the window to get it done then, and I felt like PBC might have not the fight itself, but PBC in general might have overstayed his welcome by not doing the right thing by the fans sometimes. But this fight was amazing. It was back and forth action. It was a battle of who's gonna keep the play. Is the next guy gonna steal the play? It was a little dirty in there. It was a rough tumble affair. I mean, it wasn't not much not to like there. I mean, I felt like Thurman got the nod. He deserved the nod. I had no problem with it being a unanimous instead of a split decision. I felt like they rewarded the right man. I could see how to beat Porter now. I think the bad thing after this fight is Porter has lost to a man who's pumped the jab, and he's also lost to a man that really didn't use his jab as much. So the book might be out on how to beat him, and the book is out on how to lose to him as well. But as far as Thurman, as he goes forward, I still don't see the book on how to beat Keith Thurman yet, unless you are just a 32-year-old Mayweather and you can really just sharpshoot and pull back, and it's going to be tough to beat Keith Thurman. I think the next fight for Thurman should be, of course, it's mandatory, but after that, I don't want Danny Garcia. I want the winner. I'm thinking it'll be Kell Brook versus Vargas. I would like the winner of that to fight Keith Thurman next.
Oh, I think there's a book on how to beat Thurman. We can talk about it a little bit later, but I think it's definitely a formula to beat Keith Thurman. I'll go to you, Gus, Daniel, and Jacob. Talk about the fight itself, and for me, the strengths of both fighters showed, but also the weaknesses of both fighters showed, both in Porter and even in Keith Thurman, even though he won the fight. So talk about that, and talk about anything that you saw in both fighters that revealed anything to you. Weaknesses, strength. That Thurman, was he more impressive than you thought he was? Was he less impressive? Was this a situation of styles making the right fight, and they both just fought in a way that produced a fantastic fight? Started with you, Gus, and then you, Daniel and Jacob.
Yeah, Mike, I was worried that coming into this fight, Keith would continue in his vein in his last few performances of being almost a safety first, sort of negative fighter, desperate to preserve his own. But credit to him, to both fighters, because they both came out with evil intentions, trying to sort of decapitate each other's heads from the opening bell. But in the process of doing so, I don't think it was technically an accomplished fight. I think there was sort of mistakes throughout the fight. we keep hearing about this proverbial, and I'm getting sick of hearing it now. Shawn Porter and he's smothering, but Shawn Porter, he's like a car rolling down the cliff with no brakes, and the handbrake off, just colliding into with no. He just doesn't seem to understand how to approach a target. Put on your brakes, fight in range. He just wants to bear hug his opponents, and that leads to inactivity because you can't punch at a right angle when you're like that. And there was too much inactivity in those sort of rounds. But Keith Thurman also showed me certain weaknesses. He showed me that he cannot fight walking down an opponent, because when he was walking Shawn down, his jab had disappeared. There was no head movements. There was no upper body movements. He was just literally walking into the target, almost like a man possessed, given that he'd heard him numerous times before. He felt that he could sort of take him out. But equally, Shawn showed that he couldn't fight going backwards, because he clearly he was almost an alien, knowing how to throw punches from sort of long distance when your prey is sort of approaching you. Just he's a pressure fighter on the front foot, and he was unable to do so. But Keith just kept landing the check hook and the right hand. Check hook, right hand. It just seemed to work all night. But what Shawn was, the success that Shawn was able to have, he was throwing that looping sort of right hand, and I think that punch may have been the one to have caused Keith some facial damage, and he was trying to vary the sort of trajectory on the right hand, and we saw sometimes the right hand hitting Keith on the head, and sometimes on the neck and chest, but that seemed to have been the most effective punch. But ultimately, I had it 8 rounds for 4 to Keith. I know Shawn may have landed sort of 236, Keith 235, but ultimately Keith landed the cleaner, the heavier, the more visible, the more sort of damage-inducing blows. So yeah, it was a good fight, but fight of the year, not a chance. Salido Vargas, that landed over 750 power punches. That's head and shoulders above any fight, particularly this one as well.
Daniel, Jacob, your assessment of what went down?
I think, like all of us last week, I was worried about how this fight was going to go, because we all kind of agreed with Scorsese that it may have been past the expiration date. And like I pretty much expected for Keith Thurman to completely copy the Kell Brook playbook when they came to Porter, and I'm glad that he didn't. They both came in looking to knock each other out, and both did really interesting things. Like, Porter made it a valid point to not let Keith Thurman have the center of the ring for a good portion of the fight. He made sure, either with a stutter step and getting into the ropes, that Keith wasn't dominating from the distance. At the same time, though, Keith actually figured out really nice timing. Every single time that Porter landed a jab, he knew exactly then when to throw a left hook. And those left hooks hurt Shawn Porter a couple of times. But now, the one that this is probably the shot that everybody that was at the Barclays Center thought won the fight for Porter. It was that body shot in the 8th round, where, if you remember from the Luis Collazo fight, Keith Thurman really doesn't like body shots that much. And he hit him there, and you saw Keith turn away. And Porter just didn't capitalize enough. But I think that was the point, when most people in Barclays Center thought, okay, Porter won the fight. He got his opponent more visibly hurt. But it was a great fight. Both guys came out. They wanted to win. They didn't fight not to lose. And it's true, neither guy at the end looked that tired. which just tells you the conditioning these two guys are in, particularly Shawn Porter. They did really, really well. It was a good fight. It's a fight of the year candidate, but it's not going to win. It's not going to win fight of the year because as far as skill level, yeah, Vargas Salido's still up there. And you have to have a really, really, really high caliber fight to even match that.
Jacob?
Yeah, I agree with both Gus and Daniel as far as fight of the year. It is a candidate. Like every year, there's a handful of candidates. And it was a great fight. I was also worried, and we talked about it last week, that I thought it was going to be a really ugly fight. And I'm glad they proved me wrong. I'm glad that they were able to show each of them their respective skills. And the type of fighters they are, and they excited the crowd. They had everybody up on their feet on prime time. They basically showed up for prime time. Unlike some fighters that get that chance and then they completely they're a dud. So I give my hats off to both of them. I had the fight actually a draw the first time I watched it, but then on a second viewing, I had Thurman winning 7-5. So, I think the right guy won. I don't think Porter has anything to hang his head about. If anything, he got a couple things that he can do, I think, to adjust to stay, relevant within the welterweight division. Thurman, I think did very well. Surprisingly, in those exchanges on the ropes, he did very well to kind of counter precisely off the ropes, and I think that ended up winning him a good majority of the fights. And Porter's got a hell of a chin, man, because he got hit hard, and we know some of those Thurman punches have knocked out other guys in his other matches, and he buckled a couple times, but he kept on coming. And I thought he did some really good body work. I thought he did some good spinning. He's not as coordinated, and he's kind of a swarming fighter. So I think there's definitely room for improvement there. But it was an exciting, good fight, and I'm glad I was wrong about the of what kind of fight it was going to be.
Let's talk future here for both Thurman and Porter. I know a lot of people immediately after the bout on social media was wanting a rematch. I must admit I was saying the same thing. But Thurman, he was also calling out Danny Garcia. But Thurman, he has that mandatory with Ivanesian. He has to fight in order to keep the belt. I'll just open up for everybody here. Where do you see him going?
Avanesian, and no choice. Then he got to let everything play out. We got to see who Danny Garcia selects, and hopefully Danny Garcia put, Khan, Peterson, or Broner. That's the right lane for Danny Garcia. And I really wish they would make a Kell Brook fight. Kell Brook says, I think both of those guys, the big welterweights, the true welterweights, they're both going to be gunning for Danny Garcia, and he might take whoever gets him the most money, but I just feel like they should be fighting each other. Those two big welterweights, because they're the only people to beat Shawn Porter. I don't think any of us would favor Danny Garcia to beat Shawn Porter right now. So, two people that beat Porter, still in the division, still undefeated, still champs. That should be the fight.
Well, let me say for the record, you know how I am about Danny Garcia. I'm skeptical if he'll step up and take that fight. You mentioned Brook. Look, as exciting as this fight was, and as exciting as Thurman was, I'll say it right now. I still think Brook will beat him.
Mm-hmm.
I still think Errol Spence, if he gets in the ring with Thurman, I think he would beat him. We have to throw that name in there now. He's the top contender out there of those who don't have a belt. So you're right. You're probably Ivanesian. Will Garcia fight him? I don't know. I would love the Brook fight too. I'm still hoping for a fight against Errol Spence because Errol Spence done dogged this dude, and Thurman hasn't really come back with a response. So that should tell you something right there. But again, I'm just going to open up for everybody here. Unmute your mic, EJ. I want your response as well. Future for Thurman, future for Porter. What you think?
Porter needs to retire. Thurman needs to fight.
Damn, man.
Retire.
Oh.
Yeah, he ain't gonna win another fight again. So what's the point? I mean, he's just gonna just used as a trial horse for everyone to beat him. Like,
and you're ruthless, man. You're ruthless.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this, man.
And you know why I say this? Yeah? You know why I say this? Yeah? When you got time, you're sparring with Nez and Charmaine the God before your biggest fight of your career since Kell Brook, yeah? That's what happens. You need to sack the whole team. You know, you need to take your career into your hands, and he's not going to do that. So at this point, he'll be put in either against Thurman again, he'll lose. Against Kell Brook again, he'll lose. And then by the time he gets to Danny, he might be worn out. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. So he should retire right now on a high. Thurman, on the other hand, yeah, Thurman's got a lot of good things. You know, I see him. You know, Kell Brook will be a good fight. Come over to the UK. We wait for you. That'll be a good fight. And like maybe you should call out Tim Bradley. You know, or I heard Manny Pacquiao might be fighting Adrian Broner. So there's fights for Keith Thurman. But at the minute he's been quiet for a long while. But he's focused. You think about it, as we build up to the fight, we never heard too much about him, and he was doing what he was supposed to do. Be a fighter, be like a sort of haggler, where you're just focused on the target, and that's what he did, man. He looked really good in that fight, so that's what I think should happen, man.
I'm still waiting for a response from him in terms of Spence, because Spence came out and said he murked this dude. But that's what you're supposed to say. But really, the reality of it, yeah, you need to earn the right to fight these guys. And Errol Spence at the minute, he needs to be knocking off the people. So Keith Thurman hasn't got nowhere to go, and he's not doing that. At the minute, he's only talking. If you heard Eddie Hearn, he was calling out Kell Brook, but when Eddie Hearn said, "Yeah, okay, we'll do that fight," they said, "Nah." Al Heyman's people say he's not ready. That's what Eddie Hearn put out. They said he's not ready. They said the people, his handler said he's not ready for that fight right now.
Yeah, Eddie Hearn retracted that. He came out and retracted that because Spence retracted it as well.
But that's what I'm trying to say to you. So the handlers, he might be saying he's doing what he's supposed to be saying, like Thurman was saying. But now we saw Thurman against Porter. How do you think Thurman would have played against Mayweather? No, Mayweather would have beat him outside, man. So people can talk as much as they want, but the bottom line is that you need to earn the right, and Thurman's earned the right. He's knocked off a former world champion. So let's try and unify the division. So that's what I want to see.
Can I make a point I'm not gonna talk after the rest of this, let everybody else go. But after this Vargas fight, I see Kell Brook doing the unifications Trump mandatories thing. So I think he does fight a champion next. So Thurman, if he gets past Avanesian, he might be next, because I think Kell Brook looks at it like Mike looks at it. Thurman might be easier work than a stronger Errol Spence, who might not be tested, but there's no doubt he's strong. So that mandatories trumping, unifications trumping mandatories, it might play a part in what happens in the welterweight division. So,
yeah, let's bring everybody else into this discussion. Open up your mics, folks. Your thoughts.
Yeah, I think.
Well,
go ahead, Gil.
Thurman made it real clear on the broadcast he wants Garcia because he wants the strap. You know, whether Garcia will play along, I don't know. What I do find,
whether his dad will let him play along.
Yeah, exactly. What I find very interesting is, we've all heard that Keith Thurman is not exactly happy with Al Heyman and the way things are going and the matchmaking. He's now in a position to be the tail wagging the dog, and I'm going to be very interested to see what happens over the coming weeks as to what sort of terms get dictated, where Keith wants to go. This was a big shot in the arm for Premier Broadcasting, for PBC. This was the highest rated boxing audience, free or paid, all year so far. Biggest audience to watch boxing in the U.S. anyway, all year. Exactly what PBC needed. And Keith Thurman is going to rightfully say, hey, Uncle Al, I brought the crowds, I brought the action, You need to get me back in there now. And that's the smart thing for
Exactly.
Thurman. He needs to capitalize on this and get right back in there. And if he does a tune-up fight next, waiting for Garcia to twiddle his thumbs and decide whether he wants to call Rod Salka back or, whatever. He just needs to show his face. He needs to let people get to know him more. He's an interesting guy. The morning of the fight, Premier Boxing did something extremely smart. And if you didn't catch this, if you could roll back through their Facebook feed and find it, it's worth it. They put him up on Facebook Live, chatting and answering questions from fans while he was getting his hair braided for the fight by his stepmother. Absolutely the most entertaining stuff I have seen in ages. It went on for an hour. And he just sat there with his hair being braided, casual as could be, talked all kinds of stuff, talked about other fighters, talked about the state of the world, answered a question about what his spirit animal is. I mean, you name it, Keith will talk about it. And that is the best possible thing for him, for PBC, and for boxing. And the more we can all get on board and ride that and ride it till it drops, the better.
Gus, Daniel, Jacob.
Gail, we are not worthy. Exactly, Mike. That's how you capitalize on whatever it was, 2.6 million views. They have an opportunity to make money, and hence they have to get him out very, very quickly. And if it means Avanesian in the next sort of few months, then fine. I mean, if he goes back to this 12 months bullshit hiatus, which has been killing the product, then, I mean, what the fuck was the point of this fight? I mean, no point at all. I mean, he needs to be active. And as for, Danny Garcia now, he's deliberately been locked away for 8 months, and he ain't going to come out for no one until he knows that Floyd Mayweather is 100% fully retired. Otherwise, he's not risking anything. That's why he's been hidden away. So you can just forget about that one. That's not going to transpire.
Yeah. Well, and Garcia is going to make himself irrelevant if he does, if he keeps hiding. Do credit, sometimes Jesse Vargas drives me nuts. But the good thing about Jesse is he calls everyone out. He's sincere about it. He wants a shot. He wants out there. He'll fight anyone, anytime. He'll go to the dog pound. He doesn't care. And that's the attitude these guys need to have.
It's kind of Mendo for WBC Garcia, and it's like they have enough balls to force that. Anybody know?
I don't know.
Well, Danny Garcia is going to quickly become the Canelo of the welterweight division, and I'll leave it on that note.
He's going to fight Berto. I mean, I think that's the fight that they're trying to set up.
Good luck with that.
What's going to happen is that when they announce the Floyd, sorry, when they announce the Adrian Broner Manny Pacquiao fight, when it's officially announced in a few weeks, what's going to happen is, I guarantee you, a week or maybe a couple of weeks after, Floyd will come out and he'll announce that he's making his comeback against Danny Garcia. So then you've got, and the winners fight each other, because then that's a brilliant money spinning idea, because you'll have 4 guys, they all get filthy rich. It'll increase pay-per-views as well, and it's brilliant because we get to see PBC killer president DSG being schooled, and once without a belt and his undefeated status, he can piss off back to Philadelphia and fight in gas stations and car parks. And as a bonus, we get to see Adrian Broner getting knocked the fuck out. So brilliant.
Oh yeah.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, say it with
for me. Speaks for me.
Daniel and Jacob, before we move on.
Okay. As far as actual futures, for Thurman, it's Avanesian. He has no choice. He literally has no choice. Because he's not fighting for... that title, WBA title, is the legit title. Until Floyd announces his return against Pacquiao. But the main issue is going to be when this fight's going to happen. I can see it happening at the end of the year, but unfortunately, this could just be like the one good fight the PBC may have had all year. And then if Keith Thurman fights Abanesian and decides to fight, he fought the previous fights, he's going to get the same criticism again. As for Broner, it's not Broner, like Porter, he wants to fight within the next 3 months. That's what his dad, his trainer, wants. Apparently, Lou DiBella, by orders of Al Heyman, is saying that Shawn Porter should take 6 months off after that fight. And that pretty much, unfortunately, could make him irrelevant in this little welterweight go-around, because you have Kell Brook and Jesse Vargas fighting. We know that Danny Garcia will avoid it at all costs. He'll literally fight Rod Salka again before he's going to step in the ring with Shawn Porter. And so if he's going to wind up fighting Berto, Khan is going to probably pine away, wait until Garcia's free to get to enforce the mandatory, and Floyd's going to fight Manny. So we know what's going to wind up happening, unfortunately. He's going to stay in the little lull. They're going to have to give him a gimme fight against probably some prospect, like some guy that you find that has like a 25-2 record that's paper thin. That's what unfortunately he's going to be satisfied with for the moment, because unfortunately, guys, I don't see a welterweight division unification. What I see is Kell Brook fighting Jesse Vargas, winning those 2 belts, and probably deciding I can't make 147 anymore, I'm moving up to 154. And then Danny Garcia holding that WBC belt hostage.
Surprise.
Jacob?
I don't have as much optimism as Daniel that Floyd is going to fight Manny. I don't think that's the fight that's going to happen. But I think Spence's name definitely, like you said, Mike, definitely has to be in the mix. He's been impressive. He's been calling Thurman out for a long time. I think even Floyd had mentioned it a while back, saying, Thurman, you need to fight Spence.
He said it a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and they're really pushing for that fight. I personally think that Thurman is scared of Spence, and that's why he's going the DSG route.
Look, man, I agree with you. That's why I said Spence has been calling this dude out for well over a year against anybody else. Look, the same Thurman who's talking all this stuff about Floyd this, Floyd that, and all these other fighters. When have you seen him really respond to Errol Spence?
He hasn't. And I was exactly going to say what you were saying, is that he was calling out Mayweather, he was calling out everybody else, telling everybody's going to put Porter to sleep, but when Spence's name gets brought up, you don't hear him. He's not holding court for anybody for that. So anyway, I think he's scared of Spence. So DSG is I always going to say DSG is the biggest overachiever as far as a boxer in the division. So I mean, anybody wants to fight him because they all think that they can beat him. I mean, there's a realistic chance that you can beat him and then lift that title. But I think DSG is gonna. He was at the Berto Ortiz fight, and I think that's the easy road, and that's something that his dad would approve. Hey, let's fight Berto and skate by on that. But Brook and Vargas, hopefully this whatever the outcome of that is, I'm going with Brook on that. Hopefully, Spence could potentially get that, because his name was actually in the mix for that before I think it was the IBF pulled him down a notch and said, oh, he needs one more win before he gets that mandatory shot, which I thought was a bunch of bullshit. But whatever. Hopefully Spence gets back in the ring and then he can get that mandatory shot at that. And then as far as this Pacquiao Broner stuff, I mean, I hope that fight doesn't happen, but then Porter, Porter, I'm not gonna be as hard on him as EJ said. I'm surprised EJ didn't say, let him get his beating, like he likes to say about these guys that he thinks should retire. Just let him get his beating, get in the ring, get his beating. But I think he's still a young guy. He still has a chance to revitalize his career if he does a few things differently. So I mean, hopefully he goes back to the drawing board and does the right things. And I think he can get another significant fight. I think he's right in the mix. And he's also a good, barometer, a measuring barometer for the other top welterweights to see, what their next move is. So I hope he doesn't disappear. And again, we have Bradley in the mix too. So I mean, this is an exciting division. So the possibilities are endless.
One more guy we need to make sure we keep in that mix also, who I think is a serious potential opponent, perhaps for either, is Sammy Vasquez Jr.
I knew it.
He's going to fight Luis Collazo on the Wilder undercard here in 2 weeks plus.
I would probably wait on that. Now, I want to answer something that Jacob said when it came to the fight, I think, with Bundu. I think I know what's going to happen now. I think after Kell Brook beats Jesse Vargas, and I think the way they're scheduling the fight, that fight's going to be before the fight between Spence and Bundu.
Bundu's winning that.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I think the IBF already knows that Kell Brook's probably going to go to 154. So what they'll do is just say, oh, okay, well, Spence and Bundu, you're fighting for the vacant IBF welterweight title now. And
wait a minute, did you say Bundu would beat Spence?
That's what.
Why is it West African juju witchcraft?
Oh dear.
Yeah. And
oh dear.
Yeah. Well, and to Jacob's point, I could see then Shawn Porter go for then will be the vacant WBO.
I'll just be polite and say that ain't happening. Well, I'll have to be polite and say that ain't happening.
It's happening, man. It's gonna happen.
No.
Nah.
Proceed.
It'll be cursed.
Hey Jacob, what in the world does Spence do at 54 except for waste more time? Like what does he do there? Brook knows he can beat Thurman. He's fighting Thurman. He's been talking about it. I trust this man this time and this time only. If he let me down, it's ripping season. But he knows he can beat Thurman. It's set right up. He doesn't know he can beat Spence. He knows mandatories. He knows that unifications trump the mandatory.
That's why he's going to fight Jesse Vargas. I think the unfortunate thing goes, his body's probably going to tell him, you can't make this weight anymore.
Probably.
You can't be healthy. So out of his own health, he's going to have to move.
And he hasn't signed the Vargas fight yet because of that, I believe, because the weight. That fight isn't signed and official yet.
Yep. So that's the thing. That's why I can definitely picture Spence Bundu being for the vacant title. And then Shawn Porter being positioned for the vacant WBO title.
We will see. We will see. I want to move on to the undercard. Fight that was supposed to be off television, but it got moved up due to the injury of Abner Mars. Jarrett Hurd, 10-round TKO over Oscar Molina. I'll go to you on this one first, Gus. Talk about the fight itself, but secondarily, talk about, we said it before last week, the talent at 154 pounds. Not just the champions, but the contenders and the prospects that are on the way. And Hurd is another example of that. I said it again, and I said it last week, and I'll say it tonight. This junior middleweight division is loaded, bro. It's loaded, and you got another guy in Hurd who got his shot on national television to be seen. Wow.
Yeah, I was absolutely delighted that in the absence, obviously, of the Abner Morris and Cuellar fight, which would have been an amazing fight, that this fight got elevated to the sort of co-main feature, and yeah, it was an excellent opportunity for sort of, two young fighters, Molina obviously being an Olympian as well, and sort of Jarrett Hurd, who been making his name from sort of show boxing, etc. And wow, this was the fight I was really looking forward to, and And you know, I absolutely loved this fight. And I mean, what I can say about Jarrett Hurd, Mike, he's a smooth operator. He's just beautifully refined. You know, just polished. You know, such was his confidence. You know, when you see a jab being slipped in the first round with, you know, just a peach of an uppercut.
That's some Tete type stuff right there. That's a lot of Tete type stuff.
Yeah, and you know, he was keeping pretty much Molina at will with his jab, but then he thought, you know what, I'm so good, you know, I feel so relaxed, you know, probably not feeling his power as much. You know what, I'll fight you on the inside, and you know, his inside work is just hardly any wasted motion, you know, not a great deal of nervous energy. And what I like, Mike, is that his ability to vary his combinations on the inside. Molina got a little bit predictable, certainly with his speed of his left hooks, but Jarrett Hurd, you know, he was varying not only the speed but the sort of trajectory. He was going left hook, right hand, double left, sometimes two uppercuts up top. So hence, you know, Molina just kept guessing as to what he was going to go. When Molina actually hit him hard with the body, once to the body, you could see Hurd then going to his body on the right-hand side to actually nullify his left hand.
Good point.
You know, he was, you know, intuitive. You know, the brain is working, everything is there, and yeah, what an amazing division as well. I think this guy is from Washington as well. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, it's just loaded with talent, and you know, we can only pray as boxing fans that it'd be great if they could get a round robin, but you know, I can only dream, but you know, let's hope. You know, I mean, because I think he's ready now. I think he can challenge maybe some of the fringe contenders, maybe, and certainly challenge for a title within a year. I think so. I think he could well be. Him and Lubin could well be, you know, the best of the sort of younger talent, but I think his education's a little bit better than Lubin, from what I saw. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing how he progresses.
Good points,
I see EJ is back. I'll go to you right now, EJ. We're talking Jarrett Hurd and his win over his win last week. I don't know if you saw the fight. If you have, not only your thoughts on Jarrett Hurd and the win, but talk about him in comparison to the other hot prospects / contenders on the come up at 154, Erickson Lubin, J. Rock Williams, and the like. Your thoughts on Hurd and the comparison. How would you compare him to the other prospects, contenders at 154? Are you there, EJ? Unmute your mic.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't hear totally the question. What was the question?
We're talking Jarrett Hurd, who fought on the undercard of Thurman and Porter. Talk about his win and compare him. Let me finish right quick. Compare him to the other prospects, contenders at 154, namely Erickson Lubin, who fought last week and looked good, and J. Rock Williams.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, Mike. Yeah, I was trying to say, like, I didn't care about that really. I just watched the main event. I did see it, but they looked terrible to me, so I didn't really care too much about it. So.
You thought he looked terrible?
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, like I wasn't interested. I just want to see. It was late at night. It's late at night. Even though I recorded it, I watched Keith Thurman thing, and undercard didn't really strike me anything, and you know, I wasn't really impressed. So I ain't got really much to say on it. So that's what. Sorry to interrupt you. That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Should have just left his mic on.
I'm saying.
God, EJ. Wow.
Since EJ, I'll go to Gail. I'll pose the question to Gail and you, Scorsese. Your thoughts. Are you there, Gail?
I'm listening to Scorsese. We'll get wound up here. Go for it, man.
I mean, you can look on my timeline, my Twitter timeline, and I'm a month before the fight. I see Jarrett Hurd gets the drop in for the Morris fight that dropped out, and I'm just like, hey, look at Jarrett Hurd. Forget the main event. Jarrett Hurd. and first round, like Gus says, he comes out slipping a jab, boom, uppercut to the mouth, looking like he could have finished the fight right then. I'm considering, hey, he's probably not trying to, gas out on TV, get beat late or something, because Molina can be a little dangerous. He just fought the undefeated 154 guy out of the Kronk Gym. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
When they fought to a draw on the PBC. And he did his best work late. So if you study your opponent, he got up. Let me manipulate him in smooth way. Like Gus said, he was smoothly operating in there. So I don't know why EJ wouldn't like him. Maybe he's across the pond. He got to get adapted to him. I understand that because it's like that with me and some guys over there that I might not watch fully. But Gus had his eye on the ball, and I promise you, he went to work. He lost respect for Molina, and when he did that, Gus just made some good points. I remember what he's talking about when Molina goes to the body, and Hurd just said, take this back. I remember that sequence right there. It was snap, snap, and I'm excited about Hurd. Ready to see more of them. I don't know when they get him back in the ring. I remember the Galarza fight. That would seem like 6 months ago or something. So got to get back in there. And he's saying he wants because I can't remember the name. Gus said that he should fight French contenders. I remember seeing he wanted K9 and Floyd's fighter out of Vegas. I can't remember the Ishe Smith right now. He said he wants to fight like that next. And I wonder why not a John Jackson. Why not a fight of that nature? Or maybe that after that. But Jarrett Hurd, look, that jab, that length, oh man.
How would you compare him? How would you compare him to J-Rock and Lubin?
Right now I'm higher than him than on Lubin. I need to see more of Lubin. I think he fought the better competition than Molina than Lubin did. I think Hurd's 21 and the guy's 19. Lubin's 19. So it's not that far much of a difference. I think he's 21. If I'm wrong on that, somebody correct me.
I will.
Hurd is 25.
25.
Lubin is 20. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I was on that.
He'll be 26 in August.
But I like him more than J-Rock. I just had to say that. I like him more than J-Rock. I don't know why yet, but I like him more than J-Rock.
Gail, and then finally Daniel and Jacob.
I agree. I like him more than J-Rock, too. I like the fact that he took this opportunity and absolutely made the most of it. He not only came in prepared, he came in ready to put on a show. And that's what you've got to do. These guys need to remember that they not only need to win on the scorecard, they need to win the audience to be successful, almost in equal parts. We all have fighters out there who don't have a pristine record, who are loved by the fans. Orlando Salido, loved. He doesn't have an undefeated record. No one cares. No one cares. As long as the best effort's given, the value of the entertainment is there. Because let's face it, these guys put it on the line for what? For our entertainment, which is, something that they need to remember. I think it would be very smart for him to get right back in. I do think he needs to watch how much he bites off. He needs a few more of the sort of secondary player type fights. And he's very tall for a super welterweight. He's 6'1", and I think he'll go up in weight, maybe not right away, but if he was 20, I could see him staying at this weight a lot longer. At 25, almost 26, as we were saying earlier, the body tells you pretty quickly, can you make weight, can you not? And sometimes that turns on a guy really fast. So it'll be interesting to see. This division is so interesting. I mean, it just gets more fun day by day. I love it.
Jacob, Daniel?
Well, this fight was pretty. I'll give the PBC this. They picked the right fight to replace Morris Square, because Jarrett Hurd looked to impress. That uppercut in the first round, and like I said, now I got to give credit to Molina on this, would have ended most fights. But in an aspect of it, you saw when he got up, he shook it off, and they fought pretty much the way he was going to go down. Jarrett Hurd is impressive. And I know some people question the stoppage of the fight. Looking back at it, I can understand why they did it, but at the end of the day, Jarrett Hurd was going to win that fight, and it's pretty impressive. I actually said it on my show. I do think that the super welterweight division now is deeper than the welterweight division.
Oh, no doubt it is. It is, no doubt.
It is, and luckily for Al Heyman, just like the welterweight division, he pretty much has control of nearly all the contenders in it. So there's some absolutely good fights that can be made with it. Comparing him to maybe Lubin and J-Rock, Lubin has a few more years to polish himself a little bit more. Hurd looks to be already pretty well polished, but he probably needs another good couple of fights before you can consider him a legitimate title contender. With J-Rock, that was tough. Because J-Rock is a pretty decent fighter, but I can understand why people don't like the way he fights sometimes. I would probably, just on experience, I would probably say J-Rock right now. But, like I said, that could change easily in a year, because Hurd looks polished now. Like, he just needs a couple of fights, but he looks like he's ready now.
Your thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, Scorsese had me hyped up on Hurd, and I was glad. I know we were talking about last time whether who they were going to replace the card with, and I know he was hoping for Hurd, and I'm glad that he got his opportunity, and he did a good job to shine in the opportunity. I think he's definitely. I'd still like to see him progress a little bit. I think he has a lot of talent. I wouldn't. I'm still leaning J-Rock. Just a tad as far as a talent right now, but I don't think Hurd's too far off. But hopefully, he can get some good fights and exposure, and hopefully in this packed division, we can start seeing some of these matchups and start to weed out the weak links from the top contenders.
I'll go back to you, EJ, since I know you said you didn't pay much attention to the Jarrett Hurd fight. I know you paid attention to this fight I'm getting ready to talk about now. Anthony Joshua, first title defense of the IBF heavyweight strap, defeated Dominic Breazeale, 7th round stoppage. There was some people who were saying that they were critical of Joshua because the fight went longer than they anticipated. For me, I said last week it would go 6-7 rounds before Joshua would win. I think, from my perspective, EJ, I think as talented as Joshua is, people are putting a little bit too much on him right now. We have to keep in mind this was only his 17th fight. He hasn't been a pro that long. And when I watched the fight, I wasn't mad at the way he looked. He did some things in there. He went some rounds. He figured him out. He broke him down before taking him out. Were you disappointed in the Joshua performance? Your thoughts on what went down?
Well, I'll be covering the whole week. I'll be covering the whole media from the whole week, from Tuesday, the media workout in New York, Bethnal Green. That's
check out EJ Boxing Live, the YouTube and Facebook channels. He's been pictures, interviews of the fight coverage all week. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael, man. I've been covering the whole week from the media workout, where you had 2 young prospects have like fights on the media workout, which is unheard of. It was like a whole, I could say like it started from like 4:30 and it finished at like near 10 at night. So you had 2 undercard fights, Ahara Davis fighting the undefeated fighter, and Spider Richardson. He was a fight, and then all the undercard fight, Eubank Jr., all of them media workout, and obviously then you had the undercard press conference, which was on the Wednesday, where this is the thing, right? The pay-per-view model, I was thinking not to buy it, but Eubank convinced me to buy it, and the reason why he convinced me was the argument he had with one of the trainers. What's his name again? Oh, the little Asian guy. You know what I'm talking about, Gus, innit? The little Asian guy. What's the little Asian guy he argued with? He had an argument with him, and he had an argument with Conor Ben.
I saw that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I was there. I was front row watching the whole thing, and the argument was made because what the argument was from the trainer is that how can you be talking about Golovkin when you're supposed to be fighting us, and if you take your eye off the ball, you're going to get beaten. And it goes, listen, Eddie Hearn knows that we've got a 2-fight deal. We're looking to fight Golovkin. And Eubank started talking about the trainer, what have you achieved as a pro? And it was hilarious. He basically tried to make the trainer or the manager look like he didn't know nothing, and it was a good backwards and forwards. They actually ended up fighting in the corridor, by the way. That they didn't. Yeah, but it wasn't. They told the bodyguards, the security told everyone to put the cameras down while you were seeing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, and then the other debate was with Conor Ben, and everyone knows about Nigel Benn and Eubank Senior. And what Eubank Senior, or English, we call him, was trying to say is that Ben has left his son in the hands of Eddie Hearn and the trainers and everything, and Eubanks was basically trying to say you shouldn't do that. Why would you trust your son in the hands of these guys? They're snakes. They're up to no good. And what he was talking about is perpetuity, the rights of a fighter. Basically, when fighters sign the contract, they sign away their rights. Like I'll put it to you like this: when a fighter fights, and they sign a contract, they basically sign a contract that every time their fights are shown, they don't get no money out. The only person who gets money out is the manager who signed the contract. And what Eubanks was trying to say is that you basically gave your son away for free, and if he gets beaten up and damaged, what's going to happen? So Conor, the English is trying to say that I'm looking after my son, I'm making sure that that's going to happen. And he was basically brought up Nigel Ben's drugs and the stuff he got up to because of the company, and Conor took exception to that. How dare you say stuff about my dad? He's not here to defend himself. And it went on, and you know what? That sold me on buying the event first and foremost. Now Dominic Breazeale, and on the Thursday leading up to the weigh-in, he didn't really say too much because they had it in Sky Studios, and it was raining too. And I saw him and Marcus Watts out there, and I could see they were cold because you saw the build-up, and Dominic Wade was talking a lot of jive, backwards and forward. But I could look in his face; he just wanted to get the hell out of there because it was raining down on him. So there wasn't too much said in that press conference. The food was nice, by the way. First-class food in Sky Sports, by the way. They know how to put on a buffet, man. They had anyway, it was great. The weigh-in was in Covent Garden, right? Now, the weigh-in was Covent Garden. That was a bit more edgy. A lot of celebrities turned up. We got a footballer over here. I took a photo with Jermaine Defoe. That's my team, Tottenham Hotspurs. He was there, and a lot of our celebrities. And I interviewed quite a lot. You can check on my channel. I interviewed so this is what I get to. I interviewed Dominic Breazeale. I asked Dominic Breazeale, and he was quite surprised how much I knew about him. I goes, obviously, of your fight when me and Mansour, you got off the floor 5 times to show you got the heart and desire to continue. What makes you think you got the capability of beating Andy Joshua? He goes, oh man, yeah man, but I learned from these fights. So I just want to go into the fight, try and put my weight on Joshua. I'm gonna put it on 6'7" on a big guy. He wasn't telling me no. I'm gonna work behind my jab. I'm gonna keep him at bay. I'm gonna make Joshua come in. He wasn't telling me none of that. He was just talking about I'm a big guy. I'm gonna lean on him. I don't know what kind of fight he thought it was gonna be because it didn't turn out to be that way, did it really? I give Dominic Breazeale a lot of credit. A lot of guys would have gave up, and I actually think Dillian White was on the card, right? And I know Dillian White. Me and Dillian White had a little, talk. He even say himself that his performance was terrible. Dillian White, in my opinion, if he went against Dominic Breazeale, right, with Dominic Breazeale's healed up, I think Dominic Breazeale would beat him. I honestly think Dominic Breazeale would beat Dillian White. Dominic Breazeale really impressed me in terms of when he fought Amir Mansour. You could have quit. I know Mansour was up on points. He bit off his tongue. But to me, in my opinion, Dominic Breazeale is a very good heavyweight. And if you don't come in shape and you're not on your 8 game and you're not packing that much power, this guy will beat most heavyweights in the division. Trust me. It's the same thing when people talking about some of Wilder's opponents, their bums, this, that. We'll obviously see what happened there. I'm trying to say that this is a big 6'7" man. And I tell you, if you're not on your 8 game, he would beat. I think I got him to beat David Price right now. You fought David Price, I got him beaten just for the fact that he can absorb so much punishment and keep marching forward. And usually that would break most people's hearts. It didn't break Joshua's heart. And first time as well, Joshua got his nose blood. Joshua's nose was bleeding. Joshua, he didn't break, I think, his nose, but he had Joshua's nose bleeding. Joshua was huffing and puffing it. He's lucky Joshua's in such tremendous shape. If he wasn't in that tremendous shape, he wouldn't go. He's not a prospect no more. And we're not talking about easy fights. He's a former Olympic champion. He's heavyweight, one portion of the heavyweight belt. He's no longer a prospect no more. He's in the deep end, and he wants the big fights. I think the next fight is Joseph Parker, and I was very impressed by Joshua. It showed his maturity. It shows that he's ready. He's ready and building himself for the big fights, and we want to see them. And he wants to see them. Talking about Fury, and actually we're gonna talk about Fury later, but I was impressed by Joshua, and Eubank Jr. I was very impressed with him. And if he fights Triple G, I'm saying it right now, he beats Triple G. Reason why he beats Triple G, his father said so. No, I'm only joking. But no, the reason why he beats Triple G, the reason why he beats Triple G, he's young, he's fast, and can possibly beat. No, honestly, he beats Triple G because he's basically fresh. He'll be fresher, younger, and he wants to fight him. And why not? Why not? I'm putting my money down like I did on Tyson Fury, and you guys laughed at me. I don't hear no one laughing at me now. I'm putting my tenner down, and I recommend all you guys do put some change down on that fight. At the end of this week, Eddie Hearn said that fight was going to be made. It was a 2-fight deal. I was there at Chris Eubank signing. They said the Golovkin fight is there. It's actually been signed. The only problem is they're talking about the money being paid. So basically, on the pay-per-view, it's usually about £16. Andy Joshua, on every pay-per-view sell, he gets £7 plus his normal figure. Eubank is saying not £5, but Eddie Hearn, a big Sky is saying, what have you done to deserve that? So they're negotiating it. They're going to come up with some sort of compromise. But that fight hopefully will be done at the end of the week, and I'll be at the press conference. So I'm talking about Eubank Jr. and Joshua going forward. Britain's looking bright. You have to wear some shades. That's me, DJ Boxing Live.
We're going to talk about Eubank quite a bit. I want to stick on Joshua right now. I'm going to you, Scorsese, and then Gus. Your thoughts on how Joshua looked? Were you disappointed? Were you satisfied with his performance? Unmute your mic, Scorsese. Unmute your mic. I see Scorsese's not there right now. Go back to him a little bit later. I'll go to you, Gus.
Yeah, Mike. I think the criticism predominantly by the Wilderites is totally unjustified, and I'll explain why. I think it was a very, very good performance. I was most impressed because when you're fighting a guy whose first goal is survival,
exactly,
coming over to the Lions Den, it's a lot easier to wade through the armor of somebody who's on the front foot and throwing punches, as opposed to somebody who's pretty much in the defensive shell, whose intention is survival initially, and then hence you've got to soften him up. But Joshua's jab was so effective because Breazeale was pretty much off balance all the time, and when you're off balance, you're not in the position to sort of launch your counter assaults or your own power punches. But what Joshua, I think Joshua was a little bit more patient as well. He was, Breazeale is sort of an unknown quantity, undefeated, got a little bit of pop. So I guess Joshua was saying, okay, I'm not going to be a little bit too reckless. But what Joshua showed me in this fight was he was trying to increase his repertoire. And I've been a little bit critical with him in the past that he's not too keen on his wide put punches, and the punch in particular that he was trying at, and it was working beautifully, was his check hook. And check hooks is a difficult technical punch for certainly a big fighter to throw, and certainly heavyweights. And it was hitting the target relatively quickly, clean, accurate. Joshua actually throws a lot of clean punches. It's one of his trademarks. And the other punch that he was trying at, and it may well be his signature punch in the future, was his uppercut. But although he wasn't having a success with his uppercut, because it's difficult throwing an uppercut with a fighter who's taller than you. When you got a guy who's smaller than you, you've got better leverage and hence you don't have the distance to the target is not as much. But in this case, it was a little bit more difficult, and we saw a few times that he was messing with it. He couldn't quite get the distance right or know when to throw it. But what I liked is that he wasn't deterred by it. He kept going to it, and when he was landing it, you could see, Breazeale was sort of, head being rocked back, and he sort of, his tongue coming out as stuff, So, but credit to Breazeale, he showed, good durability, and he was able to, bloody Joshua's nose a little bit later. That seemed just to sort of anger Joshua a little bit more. He showed a relatively good tank as well, well paced, and his perseverance worked out, and he's a finisher when he has his guy hurt. So yeah, I thought it was a tremendous performance.
I'll go to you, Gail, Daniel, and Jacob. Your thoughts?
I thought it was an excellent performance by Joshua. I do like his finishing. He has that killer instinct, and great fighters, no matter what their skills, have to be able to close the show. I was not disappointed at all by the depth of the rounds that he went with Breazeale. It was smart of him to play it cautious until he knew Breazeale had been hurt, because as lumbering and slow as Breazeale can be, he also has the potential for one-punch knockout power. And what Anthony Joshua does not want to do at this stage of his career is make one simple mistake and get caught. That would have been a disaster for everybody. So do credit to him for taking the mature, smart route. Once he saw that Breazeale was going to demonstrate a pretty granite chin, and he did. Do credit. You can't win fights just because you can get hit a lot, but you certainly can last longer than people expect you to with a chin like that. And once he saw that was the case, he played it very smart. And that's what he's going to need to be successful in the long run. I'm happier to see that than I would to see him just blast away. That would prove nothing. So good outing for him, and he's doing all the right things. Loved seeing Eubank call out Triple G on the undercard. He and his dad are brash, rude, crude, wildly entertaining. Good for him. And the fact that Tom Loeffler, Golovkin's promoter at K2, immediately answered Eubank's call out on the air on the fight via Twitter made me think that he either knew it was coming, anticipated it, wanted to get in on it. Whatever was being orchestrated there, I liked it. It was smooth. It was seamless, and Triple G has to play the cards he's been dealt. Whether this is a joker off the bottom of the deck, we're going to find out. Good for him, being willing to go to England, get in front of a lot more people. He's all about building up that fan base. He does a great job of it. Once he gets in front of people, he and his team know exactly what to do. He's engaging. He's entertaining. He does all the interviews, and it's a great fit. I think Eubank Jr. gets crushed, but good for him. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Jacob, Daniel, and Scorsese, if you're around.
I was again. I think one thing that gets lost on a lot of people with Joshua is that he is young. He's still developing. I still think that he has, and I think he knows this, he has a lot of work to do, but he has a good foundation to become a really good heavyweight. And I think he is a good heavyweight. He's definitely in the top of the class right now. So, I think it serves him better to get some rounds in, and to maybe get a little bit different looks and adversity. The knock on him before was, he'd never gone past, I think it was like the 4th round or something like that, and then Dillian White took him, I think it was like 7 or 9, something like that, and you know, I mean, he's very muscular up top, and you know, and that can, you know, later into the fight that can wear on him. But I think he's getting adjusted. He's making the adjustments. He's growing, and so, you know, I can't be mad at that. You know, I hope he continues to fight better quality opponents. I'd really like to see that Joseph Parker fight. I'd really like to see a Wilder fight. So hopefully that's in the cards soon. As far as Breazeale, I mean, you know, he's a tough guy, but I think he's kind of gonna areola route. And
I assume your mic is muted. Technical issues on your end, Jacob. So I'll go to Daniel. Your assessment on what went down.
It took a little bit longer than expected, but the same result pretty much happened. We knew that this was just going to be a sacrifice for Anthony Joshua, and it became that. It just took a little bit longer. I have to give credit to Dominic Breazeale. He had a really good chin coming into that fight. But everybody knew Joshua had the better feet. He definitely had the better hands. He had the more accurate punches. But there are just some things that I just noticed. Like whenever there was an exchange, Breazeale in the middle rounds sneaked in a couple of body shots. And in my mind, like I said, I kept going back to the Dillian White fight. And I keep thinking to myself, Joseph Parker will have a field day if he does that, landslide with Joshua. But it was a good, impressive fight. It did give Joshua some rounds without tiring him. And it also showed that he's not completely invulnerable in many ways with the bleeding into it. It actually probably could sell for future opponents to say, hey, if Dominic Breazeale can make him bleed, why not me? And if you saw, like, on the broadcast, I don't know if Gus and EJ saw this when the broadcast on... Well, I think Gus did, because I think he vows never to watch Sky Sports, but he watched the Showtime broadcast, and Deontay Wilder, it looked like he was licking his chops, looking at an Anthony Joshua fight, because he knows he's as tall as Joshua. He may not be as big as Joshua as far as weight, but he's probably faster, has a little bit better feet. And it just goes to show you, like, the heavyweight division is going to get interesting. Really, really get interesting. It was a good performance by Joshua. I give credit to Breazeale for the chin, but in the end, we all knew what was going to happen.
Let's move towards the undercard. Well, I think Scorsese is back. Are you back, Scorsese?
I didn't know you went to, man. Pizza Man came, man. Had to be fat.
Yeah, we talking Joshua and Breazeale. Your thoughts?
I got here when Gail was not Gail, but Gus was finishing up, and then I heard 2 points that Gail made about the UK card in general, and I'm forgetting the first one. But the second one was about Eubank and his dad showing a lot of confidence, and it might not be the most competitive fight, but the sense that he gives off that he's so confident. And when you see him in the ring, there's no spot you can put him in where he looks like he's not legit. Like with David Lemieux, I remember Alcine throwing him up against the ropes and just bullying him. And I'm like, wow, you're stronger than this guy. He came up from 160. What you doing? Eubank could never have that trouble. If you put like with what's the guy, Martin Murray, if you put an injured Sergio Martinez in front of Eubank Jr., I think he ends that guy. So I do like that fight. I didn't see the call out. I actually did miss the fight. I had to go back and watch the end parts of it. But as far as the call out, it's the right thing to do. Triple G going over to the UK. Gosh, he made some point about Joshua that was it was amazing to me, and I wanted to speak on it, and I messed it up. But that guy's mean. He's fast. And as far as people busting his nose, he's gonna tell them like he tells everybody in those face-offs. He's gonna say, just because so-and-so did it, don't think you're gonna. He's gonna be real calm about it, and he's just gonna speak his mind. And he shows so much confidence in the face-off and the transfer to the ring, and he really putting punches together. I was like Gus. I didn't think he had the hooks. I didn't think he had anything but the right hand. Man, that left hook was landing crazy. The left jab was punching the guy's head back. I see Gail trying to help me in the comment section. Joshua being patient, risky. That wasn't it. I don't think. I can't remember it. I'll probably go back and listen and find it. But I'm impressed with him. I do think the Parker fight is mandatory, and I wouldn't wait for Joshua Wilder. I would do it ASAP. So.
And since EJ put it out there about Eubank Jr., let's talk about him for a second. Yeah, he got the easy win over Tom Dorn, but the big news is that it looks like we're going to see Eubank Jr. and Triple G. Looks like it may be September or October. Looks like September. Fight announcement, I believe, is going to happen next week. As EJ was saying, just minor details to figure out in terms of pay-per-view split. I'll open. And here's what I will say. And unmute your mic. I think EJ left, but I'm not going to agree and say that I'm not going to agree with EJ Boxing Live and say that Eubank Jr. beats Golovkin. But the thing I will say is he's going to give Golovkin a much better fight than people think. If they think Triple G is just going to go over to the UK and roll over this dude, and go through him like a hot knife through butter, they're wrong. Just from a physical standpoint, Eubank Jr. is just as strong as he is. He has the chin to take his punches. He's faster. He can move a little bit more on his feet. I would like to see him clean up some things technically. But at the end of the day, I just think that this is going to be a better fight than everybody thinks it is. And I just wouldn't be just completely shocked if Chris Eubank Jr. could somehow get the victory. My only concern is that Eubank Jr., you've seen how he looked. He weighed, a couple of ounces over at the weigh-in. I wonder if he can hold the weight. But if he can and replenish himself and be comfortable, yeah, he will give Triple G a battle. No doubt about it. And I'll just go around here to anybody who wants to comment.
He's getting mopped up, Mike. Early or late.
I don't think
He's
so.
getting mopped up.
Amen.
I think Triple G doesn't have to impress the London crowd. Triple G right now, he got a lot of flack after that pay-per-view fight where he pumped that jab and it made it kind of boring, but he ended the show. People gave him a lot of flack because we want to see Mexican style. So he gave you that the next performance, but if he's going to the UK, he don't got to impress. That's a one-time deal. It's a dangerous fight. He got to win. I see that jab popping back out, and I don't care how many rounds it takes. Eubank is going to he's getting busted up. I just see Triple G is busting him up however he wants to do it.
I'm not saying he's not. I think Eubank Jr. beat him, but I just don't think he's going to roll over this guy. I just don't.
Tell him, man. Eubank's going to beat him. I
ain't going to say he's going to beat him. I think Triple G will beat him, but I also think he's just going to roll over this dude.
You enjoyed that Sky Sports buffet too much, mate.
I love it.
Come on,
EJ. Doing some skunk space cakes or something.
You know the thing is funny thing is, Gus, right? I was getting the same. Ask Michael and Gil. They were giving me the same abuse when I said Tyson Fury was going to beat Klitschko. Gus, keep talking, Gus. Keep talking.
You know I'm one of the biggest Tyson Fury fans, man.
No. I broke it down and everyone was laughing at me. You especially, Gus, yeah? UK as well. Yeah, the fact that you're not even on it, you are going to get it, right? When he comes back, I'm coming to fight Gus. Mark it down.
Yeah.
Triple G is going to win, but Eubank Jr. is going to give this guy a fight. I'm telling you.
Man.
He's going to show up. He's going to show up for a fight.
I agree with you, Mike. I think
He's
this
gonna
will
win
be
easy as
Triple
well.
G's toughest fight.
I disagree with that one.
I disagree too.
I disagree.
But
He's gonna get.
look at Tom. Tom Duran. Yeah, all right. He's a counter puncher. Yeah, he was landing so many counter punches. His left hook in the first couple of rounds, but he had no power. Can you imagine if Gennady was landing those counter punches?
Spike ain't got no power. Spike had some power.
But the only problem with Eubank is that he's too pronounced in his uppercut.
It doesn't matter about you landing on him. He doesn't care.
But what I'm saying is that he's too exaggerated. The way he throws his uppercut is like Sega from Street Fighter. Tiger uppercut. And then during that time, Gennady would have just landed a left hook. He takes.
That's fine. That's fine. And the thing is, it's all gonna land on Triple G.
I'm loving it. It's UK versus the UK right now, so I'm loving it.
Listen. Now, a lot of people dislike Eubank Jr. for his antics, yeah. But the bottom line is he stopped his last 3 opponents. Like, on a serious note, he stopped his last 3 opponents. And Billy Joe Saunders, yeah? Billy Joe Saunders went this with all of them. Billy Joe Saunders is a world champion, and arguably he won that fight. He's in the class. He's in that bracket. He deserves that type of fight, and he wants it. He's young. What is he, 20, whatever? He's in his 20s. Triple G's 34. When he comes over, he's not going to have it all this out. The moment the crowd, you feel the UK crowd over here, it's going to be a different thing. And I will be there at the press conference.
They're going to love him.
They are going to love him.
They're going to love him. They hate you, Big Junior.
Hey, listen, I'll be there taking my picture with Triple G, but he's still
they've hated.
Still gonna get beat.
They've hated Eubank Jr. since he was a 2-year-old, so he's not gonna be the fan favorite here.
Like his dad as well. There's a lot of people just like his dad as well. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is that you got a young guy. He's pushed Eddie Hearn to get the fight. The fight's gonna happen. They're still negotiating for the end of the week. The contract's been signed, by the way. Golovkin's people have signed the fight. All it is, they're looking on a broadcaster. So when this happens, we're gonna say we've already laid our opinions, and people can mock and joke and this and that. But it's real talk. Boxing's boxing's a young man's sport. Triple G is fighting guys who are more or less scared, and this guy's not scared. What did people say when Muhammad Ali fought Sonny Liston and fought George Foreman?
Yeah, he's scared.
To say it's the same.
He's scared.
Yeah, not trying to say it's the same thing. You got a young guy. He's coming up to his prime. Is Triple G on the way out? I don't think so. But just if he beats him, I'll give you the credit.
Billy Joe Saunders is scared. Jacobs is scared. This guy is
let me tell you what made me think he's scared. He asked those people at Sky for like, what was it, $7 for every pay-per-view they sell? I think they obliged him. And they didn't plan on being obliged. But they did, and now the fighters, they like, man, what I got myself into. I don't care what his facial expression says, that little mug he does. Triple G's busting him up. You could talk about his uppercut. You got to get on the inside. This guy's feet are not fast as David Lemieux's. Lemieux couldn't find his way to the inside. He couldn't do it. Triple G got a powerful, bam. That jab busts you up.
Let's get Jacob in this. Let's get Jacob in this.
All right, so Triple G though too is not a.
Gail's quiet in there because Gail knows that.
Wait a minute, EJ. Let's get Jacob and Gus and everybody else.
My bad. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention though that Triple G. I know a lot of people talk about his age. He's 33, 34, whatever. He's not an old 33, 34. He hasn't been through a bunch of wars or taken a bunch of punishment. So I mean, he's in a different. I think to me. A different stage, even though his age may be older than some of these fighters that he's fighting, but he hasn't been through a ton of wars, so I
don't even think it's a matter of age. I just think it's a matter of just the physicality and ability here.
Well, and if you're talking ring mileage, I just posted in the private chat that we all have. I checked. Eubank Jr. has 132 professional rounds to date. Golovkin only 155. So not that many more rounds. That's because he gets in and gets the job done. I will live for the moment, EJ, when Eubank Jr. comes in to throw that uppercut and Golovkin lands that left hook body shot that feels like a taser, and it is done.
That's the thing. I'm sorry, Jeff, but yeah, Eubanks is going to get mollywopped. Just look at the way he acted against Thurman. Okay, you're trying to be cute when you move around, you're running around laughing. Okay, that's against Tom Thurman. You think you're going to do that against Gennady Golovkin?
And look at some video of Golovkin. Golovkin does one thing exceptionally well that isn't often commented upon. He tucks his chin in against his neck down better than almost any boxer right now. He puts this solid, strong guard trunk, the trunk with the upper half of his body is just one solid block because of the way he tucks his chin. So you can't snap his head around. You have to snap his entire upper body around if you're going to hit him, because he's so disciplined with that position. And that is hard to land an uppercut on a guy like that.
But what happens when
Eubank Jr. is going to come in and try, and boom.
It ain't the headshots with me. Eubank Jr. is a developing body puncher. Golovkin hadn't been hit to the body yet.
His first trainer was Mike McCallum as well.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to find out that.
How does he get on the inside?
Yeah.
How does he get on
that jab, man?
Yeah, how y'all? How does he get on the inside? We really got to answer that question.
You got to run the gauntlet to get on the inside, and that gauntlet. 201 fighters talk about how hard he hits after they've been in the ring with him. After the Canelo Khan fight, there was some discussion because, of course, Golovkin was there. Canelo calls him out and so forth. Well, for a long period of time in the news conference, while everybody's cooling their heels waiting for Canelo, Curtis Stevens and David Lemieux were both sitting on stage and both getting a lot of questions and talked very openly about how fucking hard Golovkin hit with no shame, saying, hey, dude, that guy is a killer. And they weren't ashamed to admit it. Stevens, nobody has called out Golovkin more than Stevens did. Remember, he mocked up that fake coffin with Triple G written on the lid, and Golovkin, looked at him and said in his, Borat accent, "Are you serious?" And then he went and killed him, and we have that boxing meme that will last for all time when, Stevens' eyes bugged out.
The woo phase. The woo phase, yeah.
I think Mr. Eubank Jr. needs to watch that fight. He also
Rosado after the fight also went up to the mic and said, "This guy hits fucking hard."
And Rosado has continued to say ever since then in interviews that he hits harder than anybody he's ever been in the ring with. And Eubank Jr. not only needs to look at the Stevens fight, he needs to look at the Daniel Geale fight, because that knockout of Geale came on a counterpunch after Golovkin took a shot to the head. And a guy that can do that, he is dangerous. The more aggressive Eubank Jr. is, the more Triple G is going to love it.
If it was anybody else Eubank Jr. was fighting, we might be favoring him. But Triple G's that guy, man.
If you told me Eubank Jr. was going to face Lemieux, I'd favor Eubank Jr. I would.
Because the amount of confidence, but it doesn't matter with Triple G. You can be confident as you want. He has levels. You have to really have those levels too. And if not, you shit out of luck. And Eubank, his senior is gonna get ripped. People who don't like senior are about to have their day with him after that fight.
All your concerns, yeah. When I interviewed Eubank Jr., I actually said to him, "How is Tom Doran getting you ready for Golovkin?" Because it's not getting me ready for Golovkin. We're just taking Tom Doran just to take a thingy fight, a warm-up fight, and I want Golovkin next. And I goes to him, I don't know, how do you feel like you can meet Golovkin? He goes, when we get in there. But I also stayed in the press, this isn't a sign, and this is what his dad said. He said, Golovkin is a great fighter, but he doesn't do nothing special. Because my son is exceptional. My son has got my chin, he's got the same chin as I have, and he will give Golovkin a whole heap of trouble. And he says, speed, you can't control it. This is what Eubank Senior is saying. This is not what I'm saying. He goes speed, and you saw on the weekend last weekend, he has exceptional speed. He will be able to hit Golovkin, and whether Golovkin will be able to hit him and take him out, we'll find out. But listen, folks, you're in for a great fight. If that happens there, you guys are in for that fight. Should be fight of the year, no doubt about it, bro. And I tell you what, you put money down, you'll earn a nice packet. That's what I'm saying.
I'll earn a nice packet for Triple G getting the Tyson knockout over Eubank. Because once he throws that little crazy uppercut, that's true. Yeah. Triple G's going to throw a left hook to the body, or he's going to land a straight right, and it's night-night.
You are drinking the Kool-Aid. You need to. The myth of Golovkin will be over when Eubank Jr. finishes with him. That's what I'm saying.
EJ, You're buying
I
something
know.
that a father told about his son. I'm like, I'm not going to give credit.
He's
You're
a
supposed to think
champion.
about that. That's your son.
He's not no more father. He's a 19 world defensive world champion who's fought the very best. He's been against the very. This is not a normal guy. He's got 90 defenses against Nigel Benn, one of the hardest hits ever. He's been against all these tough guys, man. He's not a father. You I'm trying to say to you. He's a normal guy. This is a guy who's been in the ring. Who's been in the ring.
Yeah, but no father's gonna say, yeah, my son's gonna get his ass kicked.
He is getting.
Right.
And not to mention,
he would say that.
And not to mention, EJ, all the time the old school people are never gonna admit that somebody from the new school is as good as they are.
Never.
It doesn't matter what sport. It doesn't matter what sport. They'll always say their era is the best. So of course, is gonna say that.
Wait a minute. To be correct here, Daniel. To be correct, Eubank Senior had said there's no way that he would put his son in there against an Andre Ward because Andre Ward would beat the pants off of him.
Thank you.
Andre Ward's also now 2 weight divisions higher than him. So,
but this was a few years before Ward stepped up.
Fight James DeGale. He wants to fight James DeGale, so James is going the same weight class. You guys are not. You guys are missing. You're trying to diminish the thing. It's a serious challenge for Golovkin, and that's what they want. That's what they want.
Side bet. Hey, EJ, we're gonna have a side bet then.
Now, we don't need to. I got a bet with the whole panel. I got a bet with the whole panel like I did with the Fury. I'm playing against everyone. That's how it is. You know how it is. I'm happy to do them odds. I'll come over here and I'll have the stage and the platform and I'll be telling everyone and you guys got to eat the crow. That's what's gonna happen.
I mean, you bet the right way. I mean, because you're not gonna make money off betting on the favorite. Of course, you got to bet on the underdog. That's the only way you're gonna make money. But I have to remind you, EJ, you've on this show you've taken the underdog quite a few times. I know you like to shout out the Fury one, but there's a couple of ones that you took that you lost too.
But that's the whole point of gambling, isn't it? That's the whole point of gambling. But
So the whole point is winning.
The thing is, everyone gambles and loses. The thing is, I'm convinced. I'm convinced that I understand. I'm factoring all these things. I'm factoring age, timing. Is it the right timing? Are they underestimating Golovkin's people? Blatantly be underestimating you guys. They be like, what? This is an easy fight. This is a holiday. We're gonna come up and we're gonna beat him and we're gonna go back to wherever. It's a holiday. No one's gonna see this guy as a threat, and that's the whole point. This is when upsets happen. Look at that Carell. What's his name again? Jazzy Carell when he beat the Japanese guy. Like no one saw that. No one saw that happening. This is what boxing's about, and it's up to us to find out. Can we see the upsets before they happen? But this one, I'm calling it before it happens. So that's what I'm saying. And I don't mind if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong in it. But I first take it account.
We burned on this fight long enough. Let's move on. I'm gonna go to you right quick, Scorsese. We'll talk about one of your favorite fighters, Javier Fortuna. Look, you said last week. Wait a minute. Last week you said as much as you like Fortuna, you could very well see Sosa getting the upset, and he did just that. A lot of people were surprised by this, so I have to give you some credit here. As much as you love Fortuna, you also said he could very well lose, as Sosa TKO Fortuna in 11 in Beijing in a fight that Fortuna was dominating, knocked him down twice early, but Fortuna got caught in round 10. And he got stopped with the left hook in round 11. Just a heck of a comeback here from nowhere.
The pains of keeping it real. Man. You wait 3 days to watch the fight. We all had to. We just got shut out from that fight. I guess the communist government over there said no. And they finally got beat out. They got beat to the punch. We got the fight 3 days later. Congratulations to Jason Sosa. He's getting a heavyweight. I mean, not a heavyweight. He's getting a championship shot after this at the WBA for the real belt. Fortuna, hand down, man down. Who was that that said it? Mark Jackson? Hand down, man down. The pace, I think the pace in the fight favored Fortuna throughout. Sosa did some beautiful things, but like I figured, it looked like Fortuna sort of gassed a little bit, and when he did, Jason Sosa, as if he studied this and was ready for it, he picked up the pace, or maybe it was just desperation. He picked up that pace, and He ended it. He ended it. I mean, the round before he put him down, and Fortuna was badly hurt. I did not like the knockdown. I thought Cailles Jr. made a lot of mistakes in this fight. Low blows where he didn't stop the action, headbutts where he didn't stop the action. But I would not argue with the stoppage. I do feel he should have gave him a little bit of a chance because he was bouncing on his feet, and he showed you in the 10th round while being hurt, he knows how to maintain himself and hold a little bit. And that means he knows how to survive in a fight he's been winning. That's what you want to see. You want to see a guy still be live. But Cailles Jr. he looked in his eyes and said, no way. It was a headbutt right before the official knockout. It was a headbutt, no stoppage in the action once again. I felt Cailles Jr. took that long trip to Asia, and he got over there and said, this is not a huge fight for me. I've done bigger. And he said, you're holding a lot. It's a lot of slappiness. And I think he just kind of lost control of the bout. But all in all, Sosa did the deed he was supposed to do. Him versus Corrales, man. And EJ, in the words of Larry Merchant, when he said this about Zab Jude and Oscar De La Hoya, Triple G ain't no Uchiyama. All right? And I'm done there.
I think we're going to move on to the news because we're running a little bit short on time. I want to go to you on this news on you, Daniel, first. News popped up, I think Saturday, from the Daily Mirror. I mean, it's the Daily Mirror, so you keep it in perspective. That Tyson Fury had traces of PEDs in his system in a previous fight. Fury was asked about it later on. Fury, by the way, has dropped out of his fight with Vladimir Klitschko due to an ankle injury. A lot of suspicions on that. But yeah, back to the main story. Give us some insight on exactly which PED he tested positive for, as well as him pulling out of the fight with Klitschko.
Well, I forgot the name of the PED, but it's a substance that the body produces naturally.
Nandarum.
Nandarum. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It produces it naturally. What happened is, first of all, like we have to first mention, this isn't an investigation done by the WBA, the WBO. This has been done by the British Board of Control. They say they found traces of none of them before the Klitschko fight, and it was high enough where they're now investigating. Now they neither confirmed or denied, which is pretty much standard procedure, to an investigation. This, unfortunately, puts a lot of cloud into it because I actually talked with this on Gus, and Gus, I know you're going to go into it when it's your turn, but one of the things that you keep thinking in the back of your head is Fury is not exactly stable when it comes to making some statements. And when you have somebody that looks clean cut, has a little bit of a dark backstory, but looks now clean cut in Anthony Joshua, if you're living conspiracy theory land, you're probably thinking, hey, the British Boxing Board's going to try to get Fury stripped, so the titles can find an easier route to Anthony Joshua. The problem with this, though, is, number one, like I said, it's a substance that the human body can produce, and the human body sometimes does tricky things. It can produce some substances at a higher level than others on certain times for whatever reasons. Now, as far as for the ankle injury, yeah, it is very suspect when you put out an Instagram video saying the doctor told you you had to rest up, and not even 2 days later, you're in Paris in a club, turning up and buying drinks for everybody, and then marching with English fans in the Euro Cup tournament. So that's something that's probably very, very suspect. People, like I think Dan Rayfield mentioned, I think Steve Kim mentioned, that the real reason that he pulled out is just Fury's camp knew he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for Klitschko at this time. And now they have to wait until October. It looks like they want to make this fight on October 29th. In fact, they've already sent out emails to the English fans that bought the ticket saying, we're going to honor the ticket that you bought. So they're still going to keep it in Manchester. But to say this is a weird situation, it is a little weird because now even Klitschko's manager is pushing for a full investigation, and if the British Board of Control finds Tyson Fury guilty, he'll be stripped of the belts. So there wouldn't be a point of a Klitschko fight. Klitschko could just take his belts and then he can go and try to actually fight Luis Ortiz, because Luis Ortiz is going to be technically his mandatory soon.
I'll go to you, Gus. Your thoughts on this steroid allegation? Is this much of a story to you, as well as the fact that Klitschko has pulled out of his rematch? That Fury has pulled out of his rematch with Klitschko.
The news, Mike, it wasn't a surprise to me in any capacity. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be naive enough to conclude that Tyson and Huey are, are not guilty of taking this substance, but I have grave reservations regarding the veracity of the allegation. It is of my opinion that the powers be have never wanted and are exercising in that they simply do not want Tyson Fury as the world heavyweight champion. And it started, these people put the plans in motion, just after he'd won the heavyweight championship, and sort of 10 days into his reign, they strip him of the IBF belt. Now, I understand the implications about paying the sanctioning fees and that Vladimir Klitschko exercised his right to sort of invoke a rematch, and hence Tyson would have been contractually in breach had he negotiated with Vyacheslav Glasgow, to defend that portion of his belt. But 10 days into his reign, and I've checked the IBF ruling book, Mike, I even contacted the IBF for clarification. I tried to speak to Lindsay Tucker, the IBF chairman, but I was just stonewalled by some of her colleagues, because I said, look, all right, fine. There's not been this is unprecedented. You clearly could have said to him, look, fine, you've got no choice. Klitschko clearly wants an opportunity to fight for his belts back. All right, we'll give you 6 months subsequent. That's more than sufficient time, because what do they do after? Charles Martin, he fought one person ranked in the top 100, and he gets a chance to fight for the belt, and he wins the belt with the most ridiculous travesty I've ever seen. The most blatant no decision you could ever imagine. Glasgow's ACL was caused by the two fighters coming together, and the punch didn't cause the injury. He fell down himself because he ruptured his knee and after that they give him 12 months to enforce a mandatory. So it started there, and it subsequently moved with the WBA saying that, look, we're going to try and phase out this regular championship, keep the WBA Super World and an interim belt, and even get rid of all of the other recess nonsense as well. Fine, but rather than us being consistent with our policy and enforcing it within all 17 weight classes, you know what, we'll just go ahead and tell Tyson Fury that he has to compete in some elaborate tournament where he's going to fight Klitschko, and the winner of that fight, Ortiz and Ustinov, and they fight the winner of who's it, Fraser Quendo and Ruslan Chagayev. Tyson is never going to, if you're going to enforce that rule, why not tell Danny Jacobs that he's got to fight Gennady Golovkin to get rid of his regular belt? And I can give you numerous, why didn't they strip Uchiyama when he was refusing to fight Javier Fortuna? I mean, that would have been a regular against the Super World, but he managed to extricate himself from that. So, they've not been consistent, and but Tyson is, we know he's extremely outspoken, and he's made, inflammatory comments, regarding the sort of, the very fabric of society, and he's the world heavyweight position. He's in the political limelight. You know, he'll get media and television coverage. His comments are going to be echoed and relayed throughout. The government would perceive him to be a role model, although he often rebuffs and says, "Look, I'm not a role model. You know, don't look at me in that position." So, you know, but some of the other comments he's made, Mike, that have not been, you know, directed against, you know, gender and you know, sexual orientation, but he's made some very, very meticulous comments regarding, you know, economics and politics, regarding poverty, regarding the homeless, and so yeah, you know, I mean, I think he's certainly challenging the ideals that, you know, these social engineers are trying to preserve. You know, that's why all of the corporates have stonewalled him in terms of sponsorship. You know, he's not managed to secure anything. You know, whereas Joshua, you know, he's managed to sort of obtain, you know, lucrative sponsorship. So yeah, you know, I mean, I have my reservations. You know, I said it 6 months ago on another show. You know, my exact words, and I had to go back, and it was, I bet you any money that the powers be relieve Tyson Fury of his remaining 2 belts with a trumped up drugs sort of PED charge. And lo and behold, it's happened. So we'll wait and see, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Last week, we did our show on the evening of the Brexit vote, and it turned out that England voted for independence from the European Union, and there was a lot of uproar about why Britain wanted to exit the European Union. That's a discussion for another day. I want you to open up your mic, EJ, and let you and Gus talk about the Brexit vote, ramifications. The value of the British pound went down heavily the following day. Hits all over the world in terms of the stock market and whatnot. Give you and then Gus an opportunity to talk, not about why Brexit, because that's been a hot debate even here in the United States. It was shown on cable news all night long, once that vote and the ramifications of that. But I want to talk about the ramifications of Brexit vis-a-vis boxing. How much of an impact do you think that will have on the sport of boxing in England, especially given the backdrop of how England has made this real rise to the sport? More champions in the UK than it is in the United States. It can be argued that De Gale is the best at super middleweight. It can be argued that Cruller is the best at lightweight. It can be argued that McDonald is the best at 118. The uprise of Joshua, who's getting ready to hit superstar. So again, the Brexit vote and the impact that it has on boxing in the UK. Could you and Gus please talk about that? Open up your mic, EJ.
Okay, yeah. First off, yeah, like, I'll cover that and go back to Tyson Fury real quick, yeah. Like, first and foremost, that vote there on the England exit in Europe, yeah, it wasn't legally binding. So basically, it was an opinion thing. It's not in contract. So it's up to the government to actually enforce that. So they don't have to. So basically, nothing's happening. Nothing's happened. They might actually do a re-vote again, right? So nothing's happening. Even though the everything's dropped down, nothing's happening, and nothing happened. The reason why whether people are voting for it doesn't matter until the government enforce that. It doesn't really matter. So that's my take on that. Regardless of how people voted, everything. I know Scotland voted in, but again, it's not legally binding, so nothing will happen unless the government enforce that. And obviously, the Prime Minister stepped down, so then the new Prime Minister goes. It's going to take ages for anything to happen, almost 2 years. Second thing, Tyson Fury. The reason why he pulled out, and Frank Warren has done this before, when the card doesn't sell in Manchester, which is probably not selling, and I know there's no guaranteed that it's going to be in Manchester. They might move it. This is just my opinion on moving it, but I know definitely Frank Warren has done this. When the card doesn't sell, he tells his fighters to fake an injury. Now, this might be controversial for you guys, right, listening to this, but I have definitely inside information that Frank Warren does this. And I'm not going to mention which fighter, and who, but I'm telling you, he's done this numerous times. When the gate doesn't sell, he bakes the fighters, tell there's an injury, makes the fighter to give the fighter some time. And I'm not trying to, I don't think there was nothing wrong with Fury. As Daniel pointed out, he was there celebrating, whatever, and getting drunk. And because he's probably getting drunk because he probably didn't want to pull out of the fight. He probably wanted to fight, but Frank Warren said, well, there's no point. Frank Warren probably gave him some step aside money. He said, don't worry about it. We're doing a couple of months and we'll make more money. So what I'm proposing is that they're probably going to do it on the Liam Smith Canelo fight on the same night and have Tyson Fury and Klitschko make a big night of fighting where everyone's going to probably watching it. That's what probably will happen, yeah? Another thing as well, Tyson Fury, the drugs allocation, he probably took it, right? He probably took it. Nandrone to do his shape, obviously it might also with the drug, obviously your body produces it, yeah, but he's doing minoring. See, it helps with the drugs, yeah, you're taking, right? It also switch up his mind, his mood up and down. And the reason why it's been important, that newspaper is a proper credible newspaper, as Gus will tell you. It's a properly credible newspaper. The only thing is, yeah, with the British board, Daniel's talking about stripping it. Frank Warren has the British board in his back pocket. When Watson got injured by Eubank, it was Frank Warren who put money in his pocket to hold up the British board of control. So they're not going to strip Tyson Fury. And in fact, even though it's come out, everyone's kind of shutting it down. It's not really big news, and it probably is true. But with Frank Warren in the media, a powerful media that he has, they're not going to make a big thing out of that yet. Not at all. They're not going to make him and Fury probably been taking it Nandrone to keep himself in shape, and then people, there was reported that they took it before the Klitschko fight. That means he probably took it while he was fighting Derek Chisora in the fights before him and some other fighters. But nothing's going to happen. It's all going to settle down because Tyson Fury is a likable character and no one wants the fight to be stopped. But if it was another fighter, i.e. Someone else, they would throw him underneath the bus. Maybe if you heard Wilder, yeah, I knew he was taking it. Or Joshua, oh yeah, you could tell. Because it's Tyson Fury, nah, I'm not too sure. I have to wait until the facts come out. That's how things are going on, right? And it's a disgrace. The man is the newspaper, credible newspapers come out and they've said, yeah, that there's possibility that him and his thing and people should jump on the bandwagon is guilty before innocent. Usually it's the other way around, but that's what's happened. But we're giving it. But all of a sudden he's getting the credible doubt. But like I said to you, yeah, he hasn't got injury, in my opinion. I know for a fact that that's what Frank Warren does to get the gate, and he's going to fight Klitschko. And and Klitschko is doing the right thing, but there's nothing really going to be done in terms of what Klitschko can do. All they got to do is sit and wait and investigate. But really and truly, this is going to be dust underneath the rug, and Tyson Fury is going to go on to beat Klitschko like I predicted he's going to do, and then that's what's going to happen. So that's my take on the Braxton thing. It's not legally binding, therefore nothing's going to happen until the government actually decides, and they have to do a whole heap of red tape and this. And it's actually good for the Commonwealth, i.e. country like my home country, my parents' country, Jamaica, that they could, because they're not legally allowed to come and work over here. So if they change it, which it hasn't happened and nothing's happened since, people in the Commonwealth can come over, Canada and other countries can come over to England free. But obviously if you're in France and stuff like that, it's not so easy. So right now, it's not legally binding. Nothing's happened. Tyson Fury is a cheat, and boy, but the fight is still going to happen. That's my take.
I'm going to open up for everybody here. I'll mute your mics, please. Your responses to what EJ was saying about the Brexit vote and the impact of that, or non-impact at this point, as well as EJ and Gus's thoughts on the situation with Tyson Fury.
Do you want me to talk about the Brexit on boxing, Mike?
Yeah, you can go that quickly, guys. Quickly.
Okay. We've seen political, sort of economic, and sort of social unrest. Although the economic implications have been slowly improved slightly as the markets have recovered, but there will be implications for boxing regarding this so-called Independence Day, as all of these sort of Brexit proponents have said, but. Where I see it sort of impacting is boxing sort of small hall shows, and promoters may well sort of be affected by sort of European fighters who are traveling to box in the UK, and particularly, Mike, we see when fights are sort of cancelled due to sort of somebody being injured, and hence in the UK we've seen a lot of European fighters being used as late replacements. So clearly, you know, it's certainly going to impact that side. I mean, there was an interesting stat that since sort of January 2016, 500, I think it's 515 overseas boxers have fought in the UK on sort of professional cards, and you know, 70%. Hold on, let me have a look. It's actually 80% of that is actually fighters from within the UK. Within the European Union. Now we know the implications is going to be in terms of the UK Border Agency and the Home Office in granting visa applications, and conversely British fighters who are fighting for, say, European title shots, etc. It won't make it, it's certainly impossible, but if there's sufficient time to negotiate a fight, then clearly the visa situation can be granted on time. But quite often or not, we see fighters coming over here maybe with within a month, and therefore it's going to make that point difficult. But there is talks. I think Robert Smith from the British Boxing Board is talking with the Home Office, and they're going to try and see if they can, I wouldn't say introduce a loophole, but try and simplify the process. So get some sort of legislation where visa applications are not rejected, because people are not coming here on sort of travel or work permits or on student visas. It's merely for a very short time period for occupational purposes. So they're confident that that a process can be streamlined, and we're not, because what we don't want to see is its fights being cancelled because no replacements can be found. Otherwise, then they're just going to fill it in with very, very poor level, maybe domestic level opposition, and then that's going to warrant criticism from the public, etc. And it'll be a vicious circle of problems. So, but yeah, it's not good. But let's hope common sense can prevail and we can get some sort of streamlined process in place.
And I'll just open up quickly for anybody who wants to respond, to the discussion about Brexit, as well as the discussion about Fury and the PED allegations.
Well, in the immediate future, boxers and their promoters need to be asking a lot of questions and making sure the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. What they don't want to have happen is a situation like happened recently with Guillermo Rigondeaux not getting a visa to fight in Russia and a fight being called off. That's what you don't want to happen, some kind of paperwork snafu, you needed an extra day, the office was closed on a holiday and you forgot about it. It's going to be stuff like that. It's not going to be big political upheaval. It's going to be the churnings of bureaucracy trying to figure out what are the rules now. Nobody's quite sure. So promoters need to be building in a lot extra time, asking the right questions. Are you sure this is right? Are you sure? Do I need to follow up? Do I need to double check? Or they're going to miss a payday in a fight. And fans and the fighters are the ones who lose. So everyone needs to put an extra layer of diligence over this for now until things get sorted out.
Jacob, Scorsese, Daniel.
Oh, there's so much to break down in this thing. EJ is right in saying that the Brexit vote is not legally binding per se, but the EU already pretty much said, okay, you voted this way, you better start now.
They'll ratify it, yeah.
You better invoke Article 50 of the EU Charter now. They're not giving England time, and the reason I'm saying England is because I don't know how EJ and Gus feel, but to me, the UK is going to be dead in 5 years. Dead, because what's going to happen, Scotland's going to declare independence on the basis they're going to stay in the EU. I don't think England alone can sustain Northern Ireland, so Ireland is going to become whole, and then Wales is just going to say, screw it. We'll become independent too. So we're probably going to have 3 new countries, and then one country be completely united. And that affects a lot of things, because it both affects currencies, what we saw with the British pound taking a beating out of this, and that affects boxing too. Because one of the things that attracts fighters to Britain at the moment is the fact that the British pound was strong and you can make a lot of money. What happens when that money decreases in value? What happens if it gets to the point where it decreases less than $1? Suddenly then going to England doesn't really look like a good option anymore, because it doesn't look financially sound anymore. That affects a lot of fights, from small club fights to the big events. And what it may actually do, it may dramatically, to me, hurt the boxing scene that you guys have cultivated there. Because now you may see a lot of fighters exodus, maybe go to other places, maybe go to Germany, maybe come here to the U.S., like Anthony Joshua said he wants to do. Eventually.
And Hurd, by the way, announced that Joshua is going to fight in the U.S. in 2017. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, eventually you may cause a really, really big exodus into it, and that affects a lot of things. And also, the UK, like I said, has more belts than anybody. What are we going to think then in 2 years? Because then we can't count Ricky Burns as part of that group, because in 2 years there's a good chance that Scotland is going to be in its own independent country. Carl Frampton's probably going to be not counted in the discussion too, because he's from Northern Ireland, and there's a really good chance that Ireland is going to completely reunify itself. So you're going to see this little breakdown of like little rankings as far as fighters from England having world titles. It's something that has a very drastic effect. Luckily, like I said, if you watch the markets, they're starting to come up. I think for the 3rd day in a row, the Dow Jones has gone up. It's recovered most of the losses that the Brexit took in place, but
they're back to parity now.
Yeah, but the thing, unfortunately, when you have to look into this as well, it's not much economics, it's the perception of it. Alex said, EJ, and just you can correct me, there have been various instances now of very ugly incidents happening after the Brexit vote. I think there was one instance where people were dropping little cards in the mailboxes of Polish immigrants that says UK voted to leave, now you leave, Polish Vernon.
Yeah, people have been attacked. There's been firebombs as well.
Yeah. The far right having a field day, mate. But the thing is, that's the propaganda was. It was about stopping immigration, controlling our borders. That's the whole reason why a lot of people voted that way, because they feel like we're being told by the EU. But that's not the case. That's been found out. That's not necessarily the case, because the thing is, they just wanted to sort out a deal. But the people who were pushing these votes, they said that to try and get things their way, obviously, and everyone was voted out. But it hasn't worked out that way, and now they're backtracking. So it's actually disastrous for the country.
Yeah, the undercurrent is ugly for real.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like you just mentioned, like I think the guy that heads like the British version of a politicized KKK, UKIP, Nigel. He immediately the next day after the vote walked back this claim that we give $350 million, I think, daily to the EU. Let's fund the NHS, which is pretty much like, if for people that listen here in the US, it's like full-blown Medicare in the UK. It's what they cover everything. And now he walked it back, said we're not even going to do that. We're going to try to privatize it. And one of the guys, is his name Boris Jackson or Boris Johnson? I keep forgetting.
Johnson.
Okay, Boris Johnson. He was a former mayor of London. He was one of the big proponents of the Leave. he now has to back down from a potential run at prime minister because of this. So yeah, this is going to get very ugly very fast, unfortunately, because like Adrian mentioned, the far right in the UK is having a field day.
Yeah,
right
yeah. But everything's calmed down though, so it's all calming down.
But that's the problem with when you have a referendum. You're relying certainly not on the ignorance, but on the intelligence of your voters. And sadly, in this situation, people unfortunately have just voted with their prejudices as opposed to looking at the underlying issues. But from an economic standpoint, if you really look at the European situation and where it was maybe good to extricate themselves is because Europe is a time bomb in terms of sovereign debt. And that's the real killer. That's a ticking time bomb at the moment, because we've seen massive problems in the Eurozone. You know, it's not liquid market, so to speak, primarily because the way Europe was configured, they tried to implement a one-shoe-fits-all. And you can't have homogeneous economies with Germany and sort of Poland and Ireland because of, you know, the demographics, the size of the country, you know, the workforce, etc. So when you're sort of imposing, you know, irrevocable exchange rates, you know, one exchange rate, you know, dictated, where these countries were anxious for, you know, for the Deutschmark to go to try and reduce Germany's power, and that we'll have one currency. Don't get me wrong, it's worked, because the underlying reason was we don't want another neo-Nazi fascism regime. We want peace in Europe. Fine, absolutely fine. You know, Europe as a whole contributes to 17% of world GDP, and it has been slowly increasing. Good, absolutely, but it was slowly becoming into, and I don't want to get too convoluted, into a federal superstate. But the problem really is the Eurozone. We've seen Ireland suffer massive problems, Greece suffering massive problems, and these countries are going and asking for record bailouts, but they don't want to impose any sort of fiscal restrictions. And Europe and the UK is actually funding 60% of these bailouts. So they're saying, look, you're recklessly mismanaging your economies, and us, Germany and France, the biggest economies, have to keep bailing you out, primarily because we don't want you to surrender the Eurozone, the euro, and go back to your sort of nominal currencies. So, you know, so that's the real problem, Mike, and I think for a certain reason, you know, Portugal is subsequently going to have problems. France is having massive problems as well at the moment. So it's not a bad time in that side, just to wait and see whether they can actually realign their economies. But the other factors, sadly, are taking precedent, and yeah, you know, it's still turmoil, and I think it's going to continue, unfortunately.
That's the side. I can't remember the guy who supported the Brexit movement.
Nigel Farage.
Who was being interviewed by Christian Yamanpour on CNN. When he's interviewed, and he's just like he's sounding almost verbatim like Donald Trump when Trump is talking about building a wall and banning certain folks from the country. Yeah, it's problematic.
Yeah, but he ain't got no power. Like, I don't know why they interview him, but the thing is, you need to think about it. Yeah, when they talk about the EU, why didn't they ask us to vote in? See, this is the thing what makes me laugh, yeah? They're asking for the country to see in or out, yeah? But the bottom line is, when it was in 1973 or 1974, why didn't they ask us then? It makes me laugh that anyone feels that they feel that the common person has any power, but this is not legally binding. They actually thought that everyone's going to vote in anyway. It's going to be a formality, and it hasn't worked out. And now the Prime Minister has to step down. But what I'm trying to say to you is that over here, people have to deal with the backdrop is that the depression, and some people actually think of changing their mind. That's why I feel like they might do another vote again to see if people might change their mind. But that's what happened, because again, it's not legally binding. Like, so nothing's gonna change. Really, truly.
So for the time being, is in terms of a possible hit on boxing, you're just not going to see it right now until it's binding, until something solid on paper, if you will.
Nothing's going to change. Nothing's changed. After the Prime Minister stepping down.
if they ratify until they actually start introducing legislation, because at the moment European members from the European Union can move freely within the UK. That there's absolutely no necessity for visas. So until it's ratified and they start introducing border controls, that's when the problems will start.
And here's the thing too. Like, there's a real good chance there's going to be a second referendum. I think there's like an online petition to the parliament that's almost at 3 million people.
Yes. It's out already. It's already out already, and it keeps growing day by day. A lot of young people. They said a lot of young people have voted, and a lot of old people, but that's not the case. A lot of young people have voted out, but they were misled by immigration, and we're not controlling our borders. But that wasn't the case. And someone like the far right, like Nick Farrar from UKIP, I don't know why they give this guy TV time. He's there stirring the pot. And that's what was happening.
Exactly. He couldn't even win a seat in the general elections in his own constituency. That's how much of an idiot he is.
Well, I think I'll answer this question to put it in the States. It's just to show that, as I'll say it as bluntly as I can, there's this stereotype in the U.S. where the British are just naturally smarter than Americans.
Indeed.
And because of the accent, and I think American media just wanted to show, no, they're idiots too. They're idiots too. Like, look what they did. Like, their country just literally committed suicide, because unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. Unfortunately, because and we even revealed this as part of the Brexit. As part of the Brexit, Trump himself actually went to Scotland to hype up his own golf course.
In the most self-serving way.
He committed genocide up there, man. I tell you.
Oh man, and the Scottish went in on him, but
he destroyed that piece of beautiful Aberdeen, isn't it? Oh my God!
That golf course that the people didn't want, and he used his own authority and bully tactics to put. Stop! I don't even want his name mentioned in this discussion. Oh my gosh!
The government agreed, though. The Scottish government agreed. They thought it was going to be turned into something else. They agreed. The Prime Minister agreed, and they gave him that land. And then they realized
job creation, in it. We're going to build industry there and employ.
Absolutely.
But the promises he made, he didn't keep at all.
Yeah, because why does he have to? Because when he's bought, he don't have to. The thing is, they shouldn't have sold it. It wasn't the issue. The thing is, the government should have sold it, and that's the thing was happening over here. Everything being privatized to foreign investors.
Alex Salmond, he's the yep.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So that Trump can do what he wants. So you can't blame Trump. He was selling land and he bought it. That's what he is. They complain, but it's the government they really should complain about, like it is over here. Who made the decision? Someone makes some money of it. So that's the way that.
Everybody agrees there. But I just love the fact that Trump in his tweets tried to highlight, saying, "Oh, here people are yelling. They're glad they took the country back." Well, pretty much every Scottish person on Twitter said, "We voted to stay in," with the most creative insults I've seen on Twitter. But that's the thing. That's the effect of it when it comes to the Brexit. That's why I think there's gonna be something happening with boxing, because that's gonna stir up a nationalism once again in Scotland. Scotland had this referendum 2 years ago. And it went down because the EU threatened Scotland with not admitting them into the EU if they left the UK. Now the whole thing seems reversed. Scotland can say, "We want to join you, EU. We're not England. We're not them. We want to join you. So we're going to vote for independence," and then immediately ask to be admitted into the EU. And I think their main industry, I think they're in Scotland right now, is natural gas. In the offshore, that's something that the EU is going to listen to. And that further diminishes, unfortunately, the pound, which can further diminish and the attraction that fighters have right now to the UK, because if the money keeps going down, why risk going to another country when the euro is worth more? If you're a European fighter, or if you're an American fighter, if the dollar is now worth more.
Yeah, we've been going here between the three of us exclusively. Here, let's get everybody else into the discussion. Gail, Jacob, Scorsese, your thoughts on all of this?
The one thing I find very interesting about this is that if for boxing, and this is a show about boxing, let's remember that, it comes at a time where there have never been more British divisional champions in eons, if not ever.
Right.
What number are we up to, gentlemen?
13, 13, 14, something like that.
14 champions. You know, there has been a resurgence of British boxing like we haven't ever seen nor could expect, and shows no sign of slowing down. What a shame if this all threatened to squish that, you know, it beat that down.
It's not just the professional, it's the amateur as well, Gil.
Absolutely, absolutely true. That would be a shame. One footnote on the Trump situation with his property up in Scotland. The absolute best commentary comes from his immediate neighbor, whose land he tried to buy. The man refused to sell it to him, had no interest in dealing with Trump, held on to his property, so Trump had to develop around him. And according to news reports and video that I've seen, he has a flagpole. Normally he flies the Scottish flag.
He got the Mexican flag.
Mexican flag. Mexican style, baby. I love it. I absolutely love
it. Jacob Scorsese.
All I can say is you guys are smart. I'm not. You know, I don't follow all the politics as closely as you guys do. But you know, hopefully all this thing gets sorted out. But I love listening to you guys break it down, and it's what makes this show so great.
You're not bamboozled by the accents or anything, are you?
That was a funny comment by Daniel, though.
Yeah, it was.
Scorsese, what's your word?
I just say Golovkin ain't no Don Uchiyama.
Bring it back.
Yeah, I think we're going to start to shut the show down. And I want to thank EJ and Gus give us some clarification on the issue of Brexit, as well as the story involving Tyson Fury and PEDs. And we're going to shut the show down on that note. Go around and hang out here. Ladies first, as always. Gail Falcathala Community Digital News for folks who want to talk to Sweet Science, Game of Thrones, or anything else. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Oh, EJ and I are going through Game of Thrones withdrawal, man.
The last episode.
Oh, my
gosh.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant stuff. Lots to talk about in the off season.
Best season so far.
Be that as it may, girl power. You can find me for talking all things boxing on Community's Digital News, and that is CommDigi News, CommDigi News.com, and of course on Pound for Pound Boxing Report with our coast to coast and international panel.
Yeah, and I know we got a little bit wonky here and got into worldwide politics, but I thought it was important to mention it. Go around my UK homie, EJ Boxing Live, join us live from the UK for folks who want to talk boxing, Game of Thrones, basketball. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
EJ Boxing Live on Twitter, EJ Boxing Live on YouTube. Game of Thrones was this. I can't wait for next season. Just simply can't wait. And Uchiyama, Golovkin gonna be a new Uchiyama. That's all I gotta say. Peace.
Jacob Rivera, Jab Hook Boxing, longtime fan of the show. For folks who want to talk to Sweet Science or anything else, or the real movies, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at JRATM23, and you know, Jab Hook Boxing. I haven't been as active on Jab Hook as I should be, but just been dealing with some work stuff. But I just want to give a shout out to Daniel. Everybody listen to Daniel's show on Sunday. Follow EJ, follow Mike, follow Scorsese, Gus. You know, just give them their love, and they all do a good job. And again, Mike, thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor.
No problem at all. I'm going to Scorsese for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else. Let the folks know where they can find you. Talk about your new YouTube page, your new YouTube channel. I'm sorry.
For anybody who don't know the Larry Merchant comment, Oscar De La Hoya ain't no darn Zab Judah for that little inside joke. That's Larry Merchant not wanting Floyd Mayweather to win that Oscar De La Hoya fight. And that was a comparison made by Jim Lampley, and Merchant made one of the most famous comments I ever heard him say when he said that. So that's something I just throwing out there. Go watch the fight, you'll see it, and you'll probably laugh now. But you can. I don't have to look it up this time. My Twitter name is at my low place, all one word. And my new YouTube channel is low place hashtag MLPF. And I talk a lot of boxing there. Have some interviews coming up on there, and
Brilliant
appreciate
site.
your follow and support.
Indeed, indeed. Daniel Carpio, the inscriber for folks who want to talk boxing, for folks who want to talk NBA, specifically the Miami Heat. Let the folks know where they can find you.
All right, folks, you can find me at Ruckus99 on Twitter. My sabbatical at the inscriber is over. I'm going to be definitely putting up some new boxing pieces coming up and a new NBA piece. I think EJ and I are going to be going through, unfortunately, withdrawals. They're coming up in about half an hour because the NBA free agency period is about to kick off. But like I said, also on Sunday, I had to do a show with the folks at Fort Boxing News, Joe and Francis. We're probably going to do a mid-year recap this time because there's not much going on, especially now with the Klitschko fight gone. Do a little bit of recap, fight of the year, fighter of the year, prospect of the year, round of the year, because it's already happening, folks. We're going to have a lot of fun on this one because there's actually been really good fights this year.
Indeed, indeed. Last but not least, Gus joining us also from the UK. For folks who want to talk boxing and want to talk music as well, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, corruption in boxing, and I can't leave the show without a last piece of corruption, Mike. Erkan Tepa is ban lifted by the BDP after less than a year.
Oh.
He's fighting this Sunday. Can you believe that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Tested positive for all sorts of shit after sort of knocking out David Price, you know. So, yeah. But corruption in boxing. I'm launching a whole bunch of stuff on Google Plus, YouTube, etc. Hopefully, going to be doing some writing as well. I'm trying to pitch some magazines. So at the moment, you can also catch me on Skype. Gus, corruption in boxing. I do music journalism for Beatport, Juno Records, as well as 2 labels in Berlin, one in Argentina. That's a music project I do for electronic music, and I've got my own show on YouTube under Covert Operative. Peace.
Indeed. And for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else with me, you know what it is. Brother JR on Twitter at BrotherJR76. If you want to find more information about Pound for Pound Boxing Report, again, go to the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. Just check the right of the blog page. You can find links to find us all over on Facebook, on G+, on YouTube. Find a Twitter handle, which is at P4pboxing. Also links to find the P4P Boxing Report, excuse me. Also links to find us on Pinterest, to find the RSS feed, links to find us on Stitcher Radio, Flipboard, SoundCloud, iTunes, as well as the email address p4pboxingrpt@gmail.com. And I must say, I want to give a special shout out to the ladies of Nerdgasm No R. I hooked them up with some music for this show, and they've been giving me some shout outs. And the Pound for Pound Box Report some shout outs. So if you in the mood, if you need some music, just check out your boy, just check out your dude, myself, ALBM Productions. Added some music there for the ladies of Nerdgasm Noir Network and their podcast, and looking to add some music for some other podcasts for those who are interested. So there you go. On next week's episode, since there's nothing really happening boxing, I'm going to go the route with Daniel. We're going to do our mid-year report, fight of the year, fighter of the year, prospect of the year, etc., etc. And we will do a preview of Sergey Kovalev's bout on July 11th against Isaac Chilemba in Russia. So we will talk about that. This has been episode 130 of Pound for Pound Box Report. For Gail Falkenthal of Communities Digital News, for EJ Boxing Live, for Jacob Rivera of Jackal Boxing, for Scorsese, for Daniel Carpio of The Inscriber, for Gus and Gus for Corruption in Boxing. I am your host, Michael. This is, again, episode 131, 131, Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you guys next week. Good night.
Happy 4th of July.
Indeed. Happy 4th,
Nice.
everybody. Happy 4th.
Chris
America.
Eubank Jr.
You ain't gonna run that all day. Chris Eubank Jr.
Prospect of